In 1985, Steve Jobs gave an interview where he called a man a national treasure. He said America should bow down before him, that this guy was one of the great inventors of our time, and that the company who pushed him out had made one of the dumbest mistakes in business history. He wasn't talking about Einstein. He wasn't talking about Edison. He was talking about a Harvard dropout named Edwin Land, the guy who invented the Polaroid camera. And the wild part? Pretty much everything you love about Apple. Land did first, 40 years earlier. Edwin Land was the kind of kid who took apart the family gramophone to see how it worked, and then blew out every fuse in the house trying to understand electricity. He was 6. His dad scolded him, and Land, and this is real, made a vow that nobody would ever stop his experiments again. Nobody really did, for about 70 years. He got into Harvard, hated it, dropped out, moved to New York with no lab, no money, and no permission to use any of the equipment he needed. So he just snuck into Columbia University at night. He'd climb in through windows, use their lab gear until sunrise, and spend his days in the New York Public Library reading every single thing ever written about polarized light. Polarized light is just light waves all vibrating in the same direction. It's why your sunglasses cut glare. In the 1920s, nobody had figured out how to make a cheap filter that did this. Land did. He was 23. He started a company, called it Polaroid, and for the first decade or so, they made sunglasses, and anti-glare windshields, and 3D movie filters, not exactly the stuff of legend. Then in 1943, Land was on vacation in Santa Fe with his 3-year-old daughter, Jennifer. He took a picture of her, and she asked him a question that, honestly, kids ask their parents all the time. Why can't I see it now? Most parents would say, because that's not how cameras work. Edwin Land went for an hour-long walk through the desert, and by the time he got back, he had mentally invented instant photography. The chemistry, the mechanics, the whole system, in one walk. 4 years later, he stood in front of the Optical Society of America, took a portrait, waited 60 seconds, peeled it apart, and showed the world a finished photograph. The reporters in the room literally gasped, like audibly, because what he was holding in his hand wasn't supposed to be possible. The first Polaroid camera went on sale in 1948 at a Boston department store. They had 57 units. They sold out in one day, and that was just the beginning. Now here's where the Steve Jobs thing gets weird, because Edwin Land basically invented the Apple playbook before Apple existed. In 1972, Polaroid launched the SX70. It was a folding camera that fit in your jacket pocket, took a photo, and spat out a finished color print right in front of you. No buttons to fiddle with, no settings, it just worked. Life magazine put it on the cover. They called it the greatest gadget of all time. Sound familiar? Land did big theatrical product launches. He hired an official critic, the photographer Ansel Adams, who got paid $100 a month to file reports on whether the photos were beautiful enough. He had someone whose entire job was making sure company memos were poetically worded. He flew in 10,000 Dutch tulips for one shareholder meeting just to prove the camera's colors were accurate. This was the original It Just Works. This was design as religion. This was the reality distortion field. Except Land was doing it in 1972 when Steve Jobs was still in high school. Jobs idolized him. He visited Land in the early 80s and said meeting him was like visiting a shrine. He told his biographer that Land was his hero. So what went wrong? 2 things, basically. Thing 1. In 1977, Land bet the company on something called Polavision, instant home movies, which sounds amazing, except the clips were 2.5 minutes long, completely silent, and grainy. Meanwhile, this little thing called VHS had just shown up, with longer recordings, sound, and the ability to re-record over them. Polavision was a $68 million disaster, and for the first time, the board lost faith in their genius. In 1982, they pushed Edwin Land out of his own company. He spent his last years in a private lab doing research nobody ever saw. When he died in 1991, his family spent 3 years shredding his personal papers. He held 535 patents, second only to Thomas Edison. Thing 2, and this is the part that should be a business school case study, Polaroid actually saw digital coming. They poured money into it. By 1989, 42% of their R&D budget was going into digital imaging research. They knew. But here's the trap. Polaroid made 65% margins on film. The cameras were cheap. The film was where the money was. Classic razor and blade. And digital cameras don't need film. So every digital product they could ship would basically kill their own golden goose. So they hesitated. And hesitated. And in 2001, Polaroid filed for bankruptcy. The brand got passed around between owners, and by 2008, the last film factory was about to be demolished. Then, an Austrian guy named Florian Kaps showed up and bought it. He spent years reverse engineering the chemistry from scratch because the original suppliers were gone and half the original chemicals were now banned for being too toxic. Today, Polaroid is back. It's owned by the people who saved it. And in a weird twist, it's mostly Gen Z buying the cameras. Kids who grew up entirely digital and who apparently really want to hold a physical photo in their hand. Which, honestly, is exactly what Edwin Land was selling all along. Not a camera. A moment you could hold. Steve Jobs was right. He was a national treasure. We just didn't know it until he was gone.